Africa, a land of immense diversity and ancient wonders, the very birthplace of humanity where our story began. And a cradle of innovation, a continent where ingenuity took root and flourished. For millennia, stretching back into the mists of time, this continent was home to complex societies, intricate systems of governance and vibrant cultures, each with its own unique traditions and expressions. Ancient Egypt's majestic pyramids, testaments to human ambition and engineering prowess, and Nubia's skilled builders, crafting their own impressive monuments along the Nile, are just the beginning of the story. The kingdom of Aksum in Ethiopia, a powerful and influential realm, thrived as a trade hub, connecting distant lands, linking Africa to the empires of Rome and the civilizations of India. These civilizations were not isolated. They were part of a vast, interconnected world, exchanging goods, ideas, and knowledge. Africa's richness extended far beyond its empires. Its wealth was not just in gold and resources. Thousands of cultures and languages flourished, each a unique tapestry woven into the continent's identity. Oral traditions, carefully kept alive by griots, the storytellers and historians of their communities, preserved history and wisdom, passing down knowledge from generation to generation. Art, a powerful form of expression, music, with its captivating rhythms, and dance, a celebration of life and community, were woven into daily life, an integral part of the social fabric, expressing beliefs, communicating values, and recording history on cave walls and in intricate carvings. As we approach the 16th century, a pivotal moment in history, remember, Africa was not a blank slate waiting to be discovered. It was a continent of established kingdoms, with their own rulers, laws and traditions, trade networks, facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas across vast distances, and immense cultural wealth, a treasure trove of artistic expression and intellectual achievement. Understanding this context is crucial, essential for a complete and accurate picture, to grasping the profound changes that followed, the challenges and transformations that lay ahead. Africans were not passive, they were not simply acted upon, they shaped their destinies, building empires, creating art, and preserving their heritage even amid future trials, demonstrating resilience and an unwavering spirit. The legacy of these ancient societies, their contributions to human civilization still echoes today, resonating in the art, music and traditions of modern Africa. Their achievements set the stage, laying the groundwork for the centuries to come, influencing the course of African history and beyond. Africa's story is one of light, not darkness, a narrative of innovation and resilience. Its people were agents of history, shaping their own narratives, not mere subjects of circumstance. The continent's ancient heartbeat continues to inspire, a rhythm that echoes through time. Before foreign ships arrived on its shores, Africa was already a world of innovation, a hub of creativity and ingenuity. This is the strong foundation, the bedrock, on which all later history rests, the context for understanding the events that would unfold. Let's begin our journey, exploring the rich tapestry of African history, with this vibrant, enduring legacy as our starting point. The 16th century saw Africa alive with powerful empires, vibrant cultures, and a rich tapestry of societies that stretched across the continent. These were not static entities, but dynamic and evolving civilizations, and thriving trade, which served as the lifeblood of many kingdoms and communities. Commerce fostered connections and the exchange of ideas. The Songhai Empire in West Africa reached its peak, a golden age of prosperity and influence, with Timbuktu as a center of learning, attracting scholars and fostering intellectual growth. It was a beacon of knowledge. The Kingdom of Benin was famed for its bronzes, exquisite works of art that showcased the kingdom's wealth and artistic prowess, and organized cities, demonstrating sophisticated urban planning and social structures. The Congo Kingdom in Central Africa, a realm of innovation and cultural exchange, boasted sophisticated governance and trade, managing complex political systems and economic networks. Great Zimbabwe's stone ruins spoke of a powerful southern past, a testament to the ingenuity and architectural skill of its builders. Trade was Africa's lifeblood, a network of exchange that connected communities and fueled economies. Trans-Saharan caravans in Swahili city-states, bustling hubs of commerce, connected the continent to Arabia, India, and beyond, facilitating a flow of goods and ideas across vast distances. Gold, ivory, precious woods, and other resources and other goods flowed through these networks, enriching kingdoms and shaping international relations. spreading ideas and religions, especially Islam, which left an indelible mark on African culture and society. Societies were organized around kinship, family playing a central role in social structure, lineage, tracing ancestry and solidifying community bonds, and diverse spiritual traditions, reflecting a deep connection to the land and ancestors. Agriculture, the foundation of sustenance, and skilled artisans formed the backbone of economies, producing goods for trade and local consumption. Life was rich and varied, a mosaic of cultures and traditions, far from later stereotypes, showcasing the ingenuity and resilience of African peoples. These empires were not isolated. They actively participated in global affairs. They were part of a global web, influencing and being influenced by the wider world. African societies adapted to their environments with ingenuity, developing innovative solutions to the challenges they faced. The 16th century was a time of dynamism, a period of growth and transformation and internal development as kingdoms expanded and cities flourished. Africa's complexity and diversity, a continent of contrasts and vibrant traditions, set the stage for the coming changes, the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. This was a continent in motion, a place of constant activity and innovation, not waiting to be discovered, but actively shaping its own destiny and contributing to the world stage. The late 15th and early 16th centuries, a period of immense change and upheaval, marked a turning point in global history. It was a time of exploration, expansion, and unfortunately, exploitation. Portuguese and other Europeans arrived on the shores of Africa, driven by a thirst for new horizons, seeking gold, spices, and new trade routes to the east. They were eager to establish profitable relationships. Early exchanges focused on commerce, with Europeans offering manufactured goods in exchange for African resources. But this seemingly benign interaction soon shifted towards something far darker and more sinister. The colonization of the Americas, with its vast lands and untapped potential, created a massive and insatiable demand for labor to cultivate cash crops like sugar, tobacco, and cotton. With indigenous populations decimated by disease and warfare, the colonists needed a new workforce. Europeans, driven by greed and a callous disregard for human life, turned to Africa for enslaved workers to fill this void. The Atlantic slave trade grew gradually at first, a trickle of human cargo across the ocean, then exploded into a monstrous and devastating enterprise. European traders exchanged guns, textiles, and other manufactured goods for captives, human beings reduced to mere commodities. These captives were often supplied by African intermediaries, who were themselves caught in the web of this brutal system. Fortified trading posts along the African coast became holding pens, grim way stations, for those bound for the horrific journey across the Middle Passage. Millions upon millions were violently torn from their homes and families, their lives irrevocably shattered, enduring unimaginable violence, degradation, and suffering at every turn. The journey across the Atlantic was notoriously deadly, a floating hell. Many perished from disease, starvation, or despair before ever reaching the shores of the Americas. Those survivors who did make it faced a lifetime of brutal bondage, toiling under the whip in foreign lands, stripped of their identities and their freedom. The slave trade was not just a commercial transaction, it was a brutal enterprise built on dehumanization and exploitation, leaving deep and lasting scars on the continent of Africa and its vast diaspora. It was not just commerce, it was far more than that. It was a profound and systematic act of violence against humanity. This trade fundamentally reshaped Africa's relationship with both Europe and the Americas, forging a complex and often tragic connection between these three continents. Families and cultures were irrevocably shattered, their traditions disrupted, and their futures stolen. The legacy of this horrific era continues to endure to this day, shaping social, economic, and political realities across the globe. Africa's destiny was forever altered, its trajectory forever changed, by the devastating impact of the Atlantic slave trade. The consequences of this trade would continue to echo for centuries to come, a haunting reminder of the depths of human cruelty. Africans did not remain passive in the face of enslavement. Leaders like Queen Nzinga of Angola fiercely resisted Portuguese incursions. Revolts erupted on slave ships, maroon communities formed in the Americas. Some African states, however, became entangled in the trade, fueling cycles of violence. Islam continued to spread, shaping law, education, and trade, especially in West Africa. Islamic scholarship thrived in cities like Timbuktu. Christianity too expanded, Ancient in Ethiopia and Egypt and newly spread by European missionaries, these faiths often blended with local beliefs, creating unique traditions. Religion became both a source of unity and a tool of colonial influence. Africans adapted, resisted, and redefined their spiritual worlds. Even amid upheaval, cultural resilience endured. The 19th century brought a new wave of European aggression. The slave trade faded, replaced by a scramble for Africa's land and resources. The Berlin Conference of 1884–85 divided the continent with no African input. Borders were drawn arbitrarily, ignoring ethnic and cultural realities. Economic motives, raw materials and new markets drove colonization. Political rivalries and a so-called civilizing mission fueled the rush. Artificial borders split communities and lumped rivals together. These divisions sowed seeds of future conflict and instability. Africa's map was redrawn for European interests, not African realities. The legacy of these borders still shapes the continent today. Colonial conquest was swift, but its consequences were lasting. Africa's fate was decided in distant capitals, not on its own soil. Africans resisted colonial rule with courage and ingenuity. Samurai Touré fought the French for nearly 2 decades in West Africa. The Mahdist War in Sudan challenged British-Egyptian control. Ethiopia, under Menelik II, defeated Italy at ADWA, preserving its independence. Resistance took many forms: armed struggle, strikes, boycotts, and political organizing. Women played vital roles, as in Nigeria's Aba Women's War. Colonial powers used superior weapons and divide-and-rule tactics to suppress dissent. Yet resistance kept the spirit of freedom alive. Early political groups laid the groundwork for future nationalist movements. Even in defeat, these struggles inspired generations. The desire for self-determination never faded. Colonial rule brought upheaval and hardship. Land was seized, forced labor imposed, and economies reoriented for export. Traditional life was disrupted, but Africans adapted and resisted. Oral traditions, music, and art preserved identity and defiance. New, blended cultures emerged, mixing African and European influences. Urban life and new forms of community developed in colonial cities. Education was a double-edged sword, creating elites but also sowing seeds of nationalism. Missionary and colonial schools exposed Africans to new ideas. Many future leaders of independence movements were educated in these institutions. Even under oppression, creativity and resilience flourished. The 20th century saw a surge in African demands for self-rule. World wars weakened colonial powers and exposed their contradictions. Pan-Africanism inspired unity and pride across the continent and diaspora. Leaders like Nkrumah, Kenyatta, Senghor, Nyerere, and Lumumba mobilized their people. Strategies ranged from negotiation to mass protest and armed struggle. Some countries gained independence peacefully, others fought bitter wars. Ghana's independence in 1957 sparked a wave of liberation. The Organization of African Unity symbolized hopes for unity. By the 1960s, a new era had dawned. Africa was rising. The path was not easy, but the dream of self-determination prevailed. Independence brought both triumph and challenge. The continent's future was now in African hands. Independence brought hope and ambition to Africa. New governments built schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. National unity was a central goal, despite inherited borders. African nations joined the global stage, seeking cooperation and progress. Yet, challenges loomed: ethnic tensions, weak institutions, and economic dependency. The Cold War fueled instability and outside interference. Coups, civil wars, and authoritarianism hindered development in some regions. Still, Africa's resilience and creativity endured. The continent's history is one of adaptation and spirit. Africa's story is central to world history, not a footnote. By understanding its past, we appreciate its present and future. Africa's journey continues, dynamic, complex, and full of promise.